Jaya Radha, Govardhana Dari Radha, Govardhana Dari Shri Radhe. Dari Radha, Govardhana Dari Shri Radhe. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Janitya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Asashata Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Janitya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Asashata Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gogopina Chamakund Radha Kund Giri Raj Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavan Mathura Dhama Ki Jai. Mayapur Navadvip Dhama Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dhama Ki Jai. Shri Ayodhya Dhama Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Gangamaye Ki Jai. Yamunamaye Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Shri Harinama Sankirtan Yagna Ki Jai. Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai. Cow Protection Ki Jai. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Oh, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jadvaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jadvaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda. So today we are celebrating the most auspicious day of Sri Advaita Acharya. And Bhishma Dev's appearance day, Bhishmastami. So I compiled a short essay. I hope I can fit everything in the time. My essay is based on Srila Prabhupada's purports, lectures, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and some of the stories from Mahabharata, from Bhishma Dev. So before I start reading my notes here, just for the new devotees, everyone who a bit trying to get familiar with the entire Panchatattva theology and teachings, who Panchatattva is, and the members of the Sri Panchatattva. I'd just like to give you a very short, brief, concise description, each member of the Panchatattva, so you know. So as we get into the stories, you know to connect nicely. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna himself, in the mood of Srimati Radharani, teaching love of God through the chanting of the holy names. Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Balaram himself, the embodiment of mercy, delivering the most fallen souls. Sri Advaita Acharya, Mahavishnu, and Sadashiva combined together, who called the Lord to descend by his prayers and worship. Sri Gadadhara Pandit, Srimati Radharani's internal devotional energy, Ladini Shakti. Sri Shivas Thakur, the representative of pure devotees, and the congregation Kirtan, Bhakta Tattva. So these are the personalities in the Pancha Tattva mantra. 5 truths, Pancha Tattva truths. So they're very significant to the Gaudiya Vaishnavism, as you know, and a very extensive and deep philosophy, Siddhanta behind, especially by the 6 Goswamis, how they revealed the entire spiritual world to us by their causeless mercy and unlimited kindness. And we can see how Sri Advaita Acharya, who's actually Mahavishnu himself, adventing in this form to prepare and facilitate Mahaprabhu's pastimes. And as you know, as we read the stories and descriptions here, I'll go systematically so you can follow the stories. Not too much of a story, but some description of the events, how he's manifesting and surroundings. And he was also the god brother of Ishvara Puri, he was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri. So we can see Madhavendra Puri was already preparing Mahaprabhu's pastimes. He is one of the first prominent acharyas, even before the 6 Goswamis, who established the worship of Archa Vigraha, Radha and Krishna, to prepare the psychology of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, that we actually aiming to attain the highest realms of Goloka Vrindavan. And Mahaprabhu, by his advent, he fully exhibited these pastimes and giving us a projection, a message that the ultimate goal of life is really to not only experience this lila, what Krishna and Radharani and the Vrindavan rasas, Vatsaya ras, Madhurya ras, these very intimate, confidential pastimes of Radha and Krishna, the cows, Govardhana, Shri Giriraj Govardhana, beautiful pastimes. Srimati Tulsi Devi Maharani, Vrinda Devi, who's actually an expansion of Srimati Radharani. And she's further expanding into Vaikuntha realm and to the material atmosphere as Srimati Tulsi Devi Maharani. She's one of the mothers of devotion. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and especially Advaita Acharya, established these fundamental angas. Angas means principles and elements and components of devotional service, which is so important for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, because it's not just a philosophy, it's a psychology behind what we're trying to aim, what is our objective, and how to be a pure devotee. So before I read one of the verses, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, just to have an introduction. So in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's a very beautiful description of Advaita Acharya's pastimes. There's so much. Today I'll just basically more the philosophical reasons and his advent and facilitating Mahaprabhu's pastimes. Vande tam Srimad Advaita Charyam Abhuta Stetitam Yasya Prasadat Agno Pitat Swarupam Nirupayat. Translation. I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Advaita Acharya, whose activities are all wonderful. By his mercy, even a foolish person can describe his characteristics. So I'm a foolish person too, so I have a hope now. Thank you. So, just before I came to give a class, I was listening to Srila Prabhupada's lecture on Advaita Acharya. It was so deep and at the same time was very easy to relate to because Panchatattva is very merciful to us. It's not something overly esoteric. Just like when you read some of the Vedic, Puranic stories, difficult to understand them. But Mahaprabhu, and not to speak of the Goswamis, they rendered these pastimes to us such a way that we can, at least by feeling, have an access. Of course, it's not a cheap thing. We cannot imitate those emotions and pure devotion, but at least we should understand, feel the sentiments what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Advaita Acharya exhibited. Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chanda Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda. So the translation, all glories to Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Nityananda Prabhu. All glories to Advaita Acharya. And all glories to all the devotees of Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gora Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. So now I'm going to read. I put this essay together last few days, carefully chosen from Srila Prabhupada's books and lectures. Make it very simple so all of us can meditate on this. Today we're celebrating the appearance day of Advaita Acharya as incarnation of Mahavishnu and Sadashiva. So Sadashiva is the original Shiva, the eternal Shiva. Shiva is known as the greatest devotee of Lord Krishna. He also manifests in this material world, as we know Shiva, Lord Shiva, who facilitates the maintenance of this universe. Just like Lord Vishnu is in charge of Sattva Guna, mode of goodness, maintenance. Lord Brahma, the engineering, creation, creating universes, creating living entities around us, is the mastermind. But he himself recognizes the supreme Adipurusham, Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami, Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishnaha, Satchit Ananda Vigraha, Anadir Adir Govindaha, Sarva Karana Karana. Vigraha, form, he's got a form. Krishna, the supreme controller, Ishvaraha, Paramaha, the cause of all causes. So Lord Brahma, who's the head of this sampradaya, the ultimate guru of this sampradaya, Sri Parampara. We're very fortunate because Lord Brahma is the greatest devotee in our sampradaya. He's presenting the Brahma Samhita, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discovered later, South India, called the Brahma Kund. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had his parikram, Padiyatra all around India. He went to village and propagating the Sankirtan Yagna, the Harinama Sankirtan. This is when he found the Brahma Samhita. So Lord Brahma, the greatest authority, acknowledges Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In terms of pastimes, he appeared before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and thus was considered by him to be an elder. So he was more senior to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in relationships. He was actually older than Lord Chaitanya's own father. Lord Chaitanya's father was Jagannath Mishra. When you go to Mayapur, you see all these holy sites when Mahaprabhu Nimai exhibited his beautiful pastimes, his appearance. So Jagannath Mishra was the father of Lord Chaitanya. So Advaita Acharya was actually older than his father. So you can see was almost like a grandfather, definitely an uncle figure for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Advaita Acharya, although Vishnu himself, was in the mood of a Vaishnava. Just like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, he appeared to exhibit his pastimes in a mood of a devotee. For many reasons, as we know. And he had personal reasons, confidential reasons. Similarly, Advaita Acharya, for this occasion to facilitate Mahaprabhu's advent earlier, he advented himself and exhibited his own transcendental pastimes. Who was actually Mahavishnu himself? And as a Vaishnava, he felt compassion for the fallen conditioned souls who were suffering without Krishna consciousness. Although previously Navadvip had been a great center of devotion, it had deteriorated into a center of dry learning. So, before even Madhavendra Puri, not to speak of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Advaita Acharya, there was already so many upper sampradayas, deviations. As we know, as we trace back history, the Buddhism, about 25 centuries ago, then Sankaracharya. So they did a lot of misleading information. Of course, they had a purpose. There's a purpose, but regarding Vaishnava Siddhanta, that was quite misleading. So these remnants of Sankaracharya, and not to speak of the deviants of Sankaracharya's followers, what we call Mayavadi, they did, especially the Mayavadis, they did a lot of damage, philosophical damage to the Vedic teachings, misrepresenting the pure teachings, the Siddhanta. So Advaita Acharya was already aware of the perplexity and the difficulty of the time, where so much of dualism, impersonalism, Mayavada concepts. So he was preparing the scene because this had to be purified and cleansed to set Mahaprabhu's pastimes as he appears. Although he was Vishnu himself, in a mood of a humble Vaishnava, he felt that he was not capable of delivering the fallen souls. He believed that only Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself could preach the Yuga Dharma of Harinama Sankirtan and deliver them. Advaita Acharya Prabhu was an ideal householder. He had read in the scriptures that the Lord sells himself to a devotee who offers him a tulsi leaf and a palmful of water. As a Grihastha Brahmin, he worshipped the Shaligrama Shila at home. That Shaligram Shila is still, I haven't seen it myself, but I've seen photos of the Shaligram Shila of Advaita Acharya's original Shaligram Shila, I think kept in Mayapur, I think. Narasingha Shila. It was a Narasingha Shila. It was a large Narasingha Shila. So you can see Lord himself, Mahavishnu, worships the Shaligram Shila. Shaligram Shila, as just briefly, is a form of Lord Narayan. It's a self-manifested sacred stone from Kali Gandaki river. There's a beautiful pastime between Tulsi Devi and Lord Narayan. So Krishna manifested himself in this eternal form. It does not require installation. It just, one has to worship the Shalikam Shila with love and devotion, with Tulsi and Ganges water. Especially Tulsi. Srila Prabhupada mentions in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that Shaligram Shilas need abundance of Tulsi leaves because they're not different from Krishna, directly Krishna. So Advaita Acharya called out to Krishna in the form of Shaligrama Shila and offered Tulsi leaf. And mentioned in the Puranas, by the way, in the Padma Purana, that anyone who worships the Shaligram Shila with Tulsi leaves, Krishna himself sells himself to him. He gives himself to that devotee. He becomes obliged to that devotee. Because the Tulsi and Shaligram is so dear. It's so dear in pastimes of Krishna. Therefore, he specifically began to worship the Shaligram with Ganges water and Tulsi leaf, with the aim of bringing about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's descent, because he knew somehow or other I can grab the attention of Krishna himself. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because a devotee, a sincere devotee, knows how to attract Krishna's mercy, attract the attention of Krishna. See? So Advaita Acharya was consciously trying to oblige Krishna to come to deliver this whole universe. Not just the Bharatvash, but when Mahaprabhu comes, the whole universe. Especially Bharatvash, where the pastimes took place. The Chaitanya Charitamrita describes Sri Advaita Acharya's appeal to Lord Krishna to appear again on earth. He cried with such intensity that the sound traveled throughout the entire universe and ultimately reached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Wow. Let's imagine, we can't imagine, to have such a cry for Krishna when we chant the holy names, that Krishna himself actually descends. Advaita Acharya, his devotion, his purity, and his urgency of call. Just like when there's a bushfire, there's a forest fire. There's an urgency, there's an emergency. More than just urgency, emergency. So there was an emergency, and feeling so much compassion for the fallen conditioned souls that Advaita Acharya cried very loudly, crossed the borders of the universe and touched the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Advaita Acharya is calling me, Mahavishnu. So Krishna was already, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, feeling obliged with love, and not to speak of the Tulsi being offered to Shaligrama Shila. Because of the loud cries of Sri Advaita Acharya, Mahaprabhu did indeed descend, appearing in Navadvip on the full moon night of Phalguna, which is now February and March period. In Vedic calendar, very particularly described the muhurta, the auspicious appearance. Slightly different in the southern hemisphere, but more or less the same, just a few hours difference. Thus the Lord came at the request of Advaita Acharya his pure devotee, to reclaim the fallen souls. What was the method by which he reclaimed them? Harinama Sankirtan. The chanting of the holy names of the Lord. And so, in response to Advaita Acharya's cries, the Lord appeared in Navadvip on the full moon night of the Phalguna month during the lunar eclipse. While millions of Hindus were bathing in the Ganges, loudly chanting the holy names. So as you know, when there's a solar or lunar eclipse, there's inauspiciousness. They can be explained very scientifically also what happens. There's a cosmic gravitational waves and inauspiciousness takes place, which pollutes so many things. The grains, it can pollute. Therefore, it was a custom and also awareness of taking shelter of Ganga or Yamuna or some holy river, or staying at home, chanting the holy names, engage in auspicious activities when there's a cosmic, inauspicious alignment, planetary alignment. Even on a daily basis, there are some planetary inauspiciousness. Jyotish masters, Vedic astrologers, who are actually Brahmins, qualified Brahmins, they can see the auspicious muhurtas and inauspicious muhurtas. Srila Prabhupada established the Mangala Arti, Brahma Muhurta, auspicious. Mangala means favorable, auspicious. So when we chant the holy names, the potency, the holy name is transcendental, but we are more receptive. We make ourselves more receptive to accept the holy name in our heart. So Advaita Acharya called out to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in a very auspicious moment also. Later, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself practiced Sankirtan in Navadvip Dham. After adopting sannyas, the renounced order of life, he left Navadvip and traveled through India. Wherever he went, he chanted the holy names and induced others to chant the holy names as well. Originally, after Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, he wanted to make his residence in Vrindavan. His mother, however, could not bear the thought that he would be so far away. So in deference to his mother's will, he made his headquarters in Jagannath Puri, which is not so far from Navadvip. There's a bit of a complementing stories here to how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gradually exhibiting his pastimes by the request of Advaita Acharya. Every year, the devotees would travel from Navadvip to Puri to attend Rath Yatra festival and have the association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus they would go back and forth between Navadvip and Puri and bring news to Mother Sachi about Lord Chaitanya. So Mother Sachi was the mother of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nimai Pandit. Still, Lord Chaitanya had an ardent desire to visit Vrindavan. So he left by foot from Puri to travel to Vrindavan Dham. On the way, he stopped in a place called Ramakeli, the capital of Muslim despot Nawab Hussain Shah. Therefore, the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister of Nawab, who later became known as Srila Sanatana Goswami. On the way, he stopped in a place called Ramakeli, the capital of the Muslim Nawab Hussain Shah. There, the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister of Nawab, who later became known as Srila Sanatana Goswami and Srila Rupa Goswami, came to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in disguise. So these personalities were already in place, although they were covered. So they were appearing as Finance Minister, Prime Minister, And they're even serving in the Muslim state. But they were actually Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. At the time, thousands of devotees were following Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya inaugurated the Harinam Sankirtan in Ramakeli, just outside the area of the Nawab's palace. For many days, the devotees chanted and danced day and night. They totally forgot about eating, sleeping, and other bodily demands. Imagine, Harinam, 24 hours a day. They were simply absorbed in the ecstasy of Sri Harinam Sankirtan. After a while, however, a few of the devotees began to think of the Nawab, realizing that they were just outside the doorsteps of his palace. He was a very cruel emperor. He was terrorizing the citizens. He was a terrible tyrant. He killed people like anything. So he was a very brutal. And he used intimidation to compel Rupa and Sanatans to serve him, threatening that if they didn't accept his proposal to act as his ministers or secretaries, he would wreak havoc in the Hindu community and kill thousands. So the Muslim emperor was aware of the qualification, the high qualification of Rupa and Sanatana. Therefore, he installed them as prime minister and finance minister. They were expert in managerial affairs, expert in Vedic, I would say, wisdom. So they were advising the king, they were the advisors. So he was very protective of them in one sense. But he also knew that they were Hindus and they had an attachment to, not to speak of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Vedic teachings. And the king was very cautious and threatening them that if you leave, I'll cause havoc in the Hindu community. I'll be very brutal with them. So of course, Sanatan and Rupa were great, pure devotees, personal associates of Mahaprabhu. At that particular time, they were in a position, high managerial, governmental positions. Some of the devotees became anxious that they were doing such loud Harinam Sankirtan so close to Nawab's palace. What if he takes notice of us and becomes enraged and he could kill us all? As the omniscient Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could understand the anxiety of these devotees, so he stopped the kirtan and told them, although I'm acting as a devotee, actually I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because I am the Supreme Lord. No one can harm me or my movement. So the Sankirtan devotees of Mahaprabhu, by the book distributors, Harinam Sankirtan, they should be confident that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally protects the devotees. Personally protects you there. Have faith in that, because Lord Chaitanya himself declares that no one can harm his movement. The demons will try, but ultimately it's Krishna is in control. Just like in, if you read the Krishna book, there's so many asuras, powerful asuras, sent by Kamsa. They were very powerful. They were rakshasas, mystic powers, incredible power. They were causing all kinds of disturbances, but ultimately Krishna slayed them. So ultimately Krishna will steps in and protects the devotees. So we have to have a full faith that Lord Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, protecting us, individually and collectively. So may do Harinam Sankirtan with all humility and respect and tolerance. We we are depending on Krishna's mercy, the holy name, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when you do Harinam, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally protecting you. You just have to be careful not to offend the holy name and call out for his mercy and depend on him. Then Krishna will protect, as he says here. No one can harm me or my movement. He explained that his movement of Harinam Sankirtan was destined to spread every town and village of every country of the world. Pritivite ache yata nagaradi krama sarvatra prachara haibe mora nama. That's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Anchalila. During that period, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission spread throughout India. But with the passage of time, even in India, it became weak. Unauthorized groups who claimed to be the followers of Mahaprabhu, but who did not actually understand or follow his principles, arose and became prominent. So this is a bit of a history here, because even after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advented himself under the glorious and divine request of ADVAITA Acharya to exhibit his pastimes and to spread the Yuga Dharma Sankirtan mission. After Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disappearance, just like when the sun goes down, darkness, just like when Krishna was here 5,000 years ago, personally, in his original form. After his disappearance, Kali Yuga, sadly, the age of darkness, hypocrisy, quarrel, all kinds of misrepresentations of Krishna's teachings, not to speak of the Mayavada. So these philosophies, we have to be very aware that they're not Vaishnava philosophies. They're Apa Sampradayas. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disappeared, very similar scenario. Unscrupulous interpretations and deviance. They exploited Mahaprabhu's teachings and often created unauthorized principles. The situation got worse and worse until the 1800s. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur appeared. He separated Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's true followers from the pseudo followers and made a very clear distinction by his essays, teachings, translations, and poetry. He wrote many songs and poetry, as we know. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is extremely powerful. His son, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, who's known as a ray of Vishnu, very prominent, powerful teachers. So you can see that the Mahabhagavata Acharyas, the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas, they stand firm regardless of the upper sampradayas. That's why we should have confidence, even now, regardless of all the different groups of interpretations and even upper sampradaya in this day and age, so many philosophies, sadly. We should stay firm. We should be faithful to Srila Prabhupada, serve the Vaishnavas humbly, and study his books and teachings. And Krishna will personally protect us. No one can touch or affect our consciousness. But we have to be vigilant. It's a question of vigilance also. He also discovered, he separated Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's true followers from the pseudo followers and identified at least 13 deviant groups, Apa Sampradayas, deviants. He re-established the true idea of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Mahabhagavata able to re-establish. Just like Krishna himself comes for that reason. He also says in the Bhagavad Gita that whenever there's irreligion takes place, he advances himself. So the Lord, the supreme authority, the supreme personality of Godhead also appears when there is concoctions and deviations, and he does not allow that ignorance. He wants his message spread all around the world. Because this is the only hope for the conditioned souls. What else we have? Unless Krishna himself and the Mahabhagavatas, empowered acharyas, interfere. He also discovered the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Mayapur Dham, and his followers. He located many different sites associated with the Lord's pastimes, including the residence of Sri Advaita Acharya in Mayapur. Advaita Acharya actually had two residences, one in Mayapur Dham itself, and one about 20 miles away, Shantipur. Very beautiful place, Shantipur. Although Lord Chaitanya had predicted that the holy name would be chanted and preached in every town and village of the world, even learned devotees could not imagine how such phenomenon would come to pass. Still, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur predicted that very soon somebody would come to fulfill the prediction of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they can already foretell, predict one another. Obviously, Srila Prabhupada. And even now, Chaitanya Lila is happening. And the senior Vaishnavas, our spiritual masters within the movement, they continue the line, the purity. So it's not just the representation here, the representation of purity also has to go on, because otherwise we end up like Upper Sampradaya again. So individually and collectively, we have to be vigilant. And our teachers have to show the way to us, obviously. So we are very, very grateful that when we have senior Vaishnavas coming with their all-day advancement, adhikari, learning, they studied the scriptures for decades and live by those principles. So when they speak, there's a deep realization there, touches our hearts. Not just some scriptural, touches our heart, because it's conviction, purity. Purity is the force. So this is the true mission of Mahaprabhu, spread the pure love of Krishna. No interpretations, no Upper Sampradaya, no deviance, but that requires purity. So we all have to work on our own sadhana, of course. Not just the quantity of our sadhana, but the quality of our sadhana. Attentiveness, and trying to understand them. It's a lifetime discovery of spiritual truths and realizations. Yet from one point of view, this entire arrangement was created simply to fulfill the desire of Sri Advaita Acharya. So the original, initial desire of Advaita Acharya, that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his entire Sankirtan movement gradually manifest in this external world, the material world, Kali Yuga, the world and the time of madness and ignorance. The only hope we have, the only hope for sanity is the Sankirtan mission of Mahaprabhu. So all those devotees, either directly or indirectly engage in the Sankirtan mission of Mahaprabhu. They're very glorious, because we're taking a very important task here. Not just to save our own selves, but to help others also, somehow get in touch with Mahaprabhu's teachings. He was the one who intensely desired that the Lord should come and deliver the fallen souls, especially through Harinama Sankirtan, that Lord Chaitanya did appear. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because of Advaita Acharya, did appear. Because obviously it's an eternal pastimes here, and Advaita Acharya's sincere call, cry to Advaita Acharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to descend, was truly real and genuine. And now, more than 500 years later, we all have the great blessings and fortune of chanting the holy names of Krishna. This is possible only because of Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu desired so intensely that would be able to do so, thus be delivered from the bondage of material existence and imbued with the ecstasy of devotional service. The 16 words of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, contain all spiritual truths. Realized devotees have actually seen the entire pastimes of Radha and Krishna within the Maha Mantra. Srila Jiva Goswami wrote a poem describing various pastimes of Radha and Krishna that transpire in the course of chanting one round of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Imagine the purity of his chanting. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur discussed the import of each word and each pair of words. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. There are 8 pairs in the Maha Mantra, in the 16 words. Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained how each pair corresponds to one verse of Shikshakshtaka of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when we sing the Shikshakshtaka in the morning, each pair of the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, they have a verse corresponding, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur's teachings, and poetic, metaphoric, and transcendental interpretation. So obviously, he could realize these verses and he could see the holy name as Radha and Krishna directly. So although superficially the Hare Krishna mantra appears to be a simple combination of 3 different words arranged in a combination of 16, actually it contains the entire spiritual world. And as we go deeper and deeper in chanting of the Maha Mantra, we come closer and closer to entering into the spiritual world and the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Thus what Lord Chaitanya came to give by the intense desire of Sri Advaita Acharya, although it appears to be very simple, just an arrangement of 16 words, is actually deeply profound and unlimitedly vast. It is the entire spiritual world, comparison with which the whole material world is just a tiny fraction. The whole process is inconceivable. As we know, the story of Mother Yashoda and baby Krishna. Only Krishna's birthday, Balaram and the cowherd boys complained to Mother Yashoda that Krishna had eaten dirt. Krishna eaten dirt. Krishna denied the accusation, accused Balaram and the other friends being angry with him from their play and wanting to get him into trouble. He said, if you have any doubts, Mother, you can look into my mouth and see if there's any dirt. Krishna was playing with the dirt. So Krishna opened his mouth. Mother Yashoda looked inside. And in Krishna's mouth, she saw the entire universe, the whole cosmic manifestation. She saw all the moving and non-moving entities and all directions. So past, present, and future. She saw the material elements, the 3 qualities of nature. She even saw herself in Sri Vrindavan Dham. She became completely bewildered. Mother Yashoda saw the entire cosmic manifestation in the mouth of Krishna, while Krishna himself appeared just like a small child that she could hold in her arms. In the same way, the entire spiritual world is contained within the 2 syllables, Krishna, because the 2 syllables, Krishna, are Krishna himself, the origin of everything. This is actually the invaluable gift of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu upon the fallen souls given to us due to the desire of Sri Advaita Acharya. Sri Advaita Acharya is very merciful. Advaita means non-different. He is Advaita because he is non-different from Hari, the Supreme Lord. Advaitam Harinadvaitam. He is Acharya because he preaches the cult of devotion, Archayam, Bhakti Samsana. We are followers of Advaita Acharya. He is one of the Acharyas in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, he was initiated by Madhavinda Puri. Therefore, he is in the same generation of spiritual masters as Ishvara Puri, the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. Nevertheless, in one sense, we can say Sri Advaita Acharya is in the line of Lord Chaitanya because he considered himself to be his servant. So he is Acharya, Advaita Acharya. Not only did he induce Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to descend to deliver the fallen souls through the holy name, but also set example how one can be Acharya. Even as a Grihastha, he was an Acharya. Most people, especially in Kali Yuga, marry and become householders. Therefore, the example of Sri Advaita Acharya is most important for us. In some ways, his example may even be more relevant for most people in Kali Yuga than the example of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who renounced family life at an early age. That of Nityananda Prabhu, who was an avadut, was beyond all material categories. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a very staunch sannyas, setting the precedent, setting the mood of renunciation. And Nityananda Prabhu was out of the social caste. He was acting as an avadut. So not very practical for most people. But Advaita Acharya was a householder. And he performed his pure devotion. So it's a perfect example for everyone in Kali Yuga. And just couple more verses here. Advaita Acharya is the incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya, because he is non-different from Hari. The Supreme Lord is called Advaita, because he propagates the cult of devotion. He is called Acharya. He is the Lord and incarnation of the Lord's devotee. Therefore, I take shelter of him. This is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adya Lila. So this was a short very brief narration of Advaita Acharya's message and his philosophical reasons for his appearance and advent to set the scene for Lord Chaitanya and the entire Sri Panchatattva, the entire Panchatattva to appear and perform the sanctity mission. So we should. This is the only time we can be a bit proud in a healthy way, to be part of this Sankirtan mission of Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we are disciples and grand disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. I tell the whole world, this is the healthy pride, because who can be as great as them? Advaita Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu. Look at this. The entire spiritual world is here. So when we chant the holy names of Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Just like when Mother Yashoda opened Krishna's mouth. Oh, she saw everything. So similarly, when we touch the lotus feet of the holy names of Krishna, truly, not just chanting like a parrot type. No, chanting sincerely from the heart every morning. I know it's a bit hard in the beginning because the mind call out to Krishna, please Krishna, give me shelter. And with that, gradually we're building that feeling of love and devotion, feelings. And this is when actually you see the spiritual world. Krishna will play the flute in your heart. Then you will also remember him sweetly. Not just remember him Krishna as God. No, a lovable, most lovable person. That's why he's helping us in so many ways, so we can learn to love him, because actually we love Krishna, we just forgotten. Our Nitya Swarupa is very special. We all have our individual relationship with Krishna, which probably have to be discovered in the future with our pure devotion, hopefully in this life and the future. By the grace of the Acharyas, grace of Mahaprabhu. So, You can see, even just looking at the history, why Advaita Acharya was so special to us and will remain special for everyone who comes in contact with the Sankirtan mission of Mahaprabhu. So let's chant the holy names very sincerely, and regardless of all difficulties of the mind and emotions, we just push through with great determination. Hare Krishna. Let's conclude. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Shri Advaita Acharya ki jai. We ran out of time for Bhimastami. It is only, if you don't mind, if you can just wait 2 minutes. I've got a very short description of Lord Bhishma Dev. I don't read the whole thing because it takes too long. Just because you need to know, especially new devotees, who Bhishma Dev is. So I knew that's going to run out of time, so I made it very short. So you know, so I just made it really clear and simple, concise. Because the story is actually from Mahabharata, it's a long, detailed story. So, first of all, Bhishma is one of the great authorities. 12 Mahajanas. Mahajana means authorities, universal authorities. Just like ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also have a governing body commission. Initially, Srila Prabhupada had 12. And Krishna has also a governing body commission. We call them Mahajanas. They are responsible for massive tasks. Narada Muni, Hanuman, Bhishma Dev, all great authorities. And Lord Brahma, of course, Lord Shiva, Naradaji, they're recognized as great authorities. They're not ordinary souls. They're transcendentally present. They are the ultimate guardians of Vedic truths, Vedic knowledge, the purity of Vedic knowledge, not just the scriptural, but the purity. And this is what Advaita Acharya was really emphasizing, the message of the authorities, the Mahajanas. So when Bhishma appeared in these earthly pastimes, he appeared at the time of Krishna. Just before the battlefield of Kurukshetra was a whole scene and preparation. So briefly, life of Bhishma. Bhishma was born as Devavrata, the son of King Shantanu and the goddess Ganga. You see the personality? He was the son of Ganga Devi. Wow. To fulfill his father's desire to marry Satyavati. There's a story behind, I'll tell you later on. He took a lifelong vow of celibacy, renunciation of the throne, earning the name Bhishma, one of terrible vow. So he was a great Kshatriya, but he was a Brahmana also at the same time, with all the transcendental knowledge, a Mahajana, guardians of Vedic knowledge. He became a great grandsire of the Kuru dynasty and served as protector and teacher of both the Pandavas and the Kauravas. He was respected in both sides, on Duryodhana's side and the Pandava side. Everyone looked up on Bhishma as a great grandsire, the great grandfather of all the dynasties, the most expert, the most powerful. No one could defeat him. And he was a celibate brahmachari all his life. The boys like that. Endowed with the boon of choosing the time of his death. So he had received many boons from rishis. He could die whenever, he could control his time of departure, death. Endowed with the boon of choosing the time of his death, he fought in the battle of Kurukshetra and later on on a bed of arrows until the auspicious moment of departure. So all these have a very detailed background stories, of course. We can read the whole Mahabharata. But what we need to understand, Bhishma Dev's position as a great authority, universal authority, and one of the greatest devotees of Krishna, of course. And he had a loving relationship with the Pandavas. The Pandavas, Arjuna, Yudhishthira, Bhima, they all loved Bhishma Dev as their life and soul. And as you know from the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was perplexed, reading the introduction, that Arjuna never wanted to fight against his teachers like Dronacharya, Bhishma Dev. How can he complained to Krishna, how can I fight against my teachers, my grandfather? But of course, Krishna has his divine plan, so ultimately we have to submit to Krishna's plan. The teachings of Bhishma. Bhishma exemplified absolute truthfulness, duty, dharma, self-control, loyalty to vows. So it's very important to meditate on these things because there's a whole chapter in the Srimad Bhagavatam, especially in the first canto, the instructions of Bhishma Dev, the final instructions. He gave very important instructions, moral instructions, to not just to Yudhishthira Maharaj, but to all living entities. There's famous instructions that you can follow them up in our Srimad Bhagavatam. But in brief, absolute truthfulness, duty, dharma, self-control, loyalty to vows. So if you make a vow in front of the deities and the spiritual master, then you follow it. And if you feel weak, call out to Bhishma Dev, please help me in my vow. I want to be loyal and faithful to the words of my spiritual master. This kind of determination we have to have, but that determination really comes from the association of devotees, because we encourage one another. So we need to have the association of devotees at all stages. From his deathbed, he instructed Yudhishthira on righteous leadership, devotion to Lord Krishna, the principles of moral and spiritual life. His life teaches that real greatness lies in sacrifice, loyalty, and faithfulness to Dharma, and unwavering respect for the Supreme Lord, even amongst great suffering and complexity. So he endured so much suffering just to be faithful to Dharma. So we can see the great Mahajanas, they're not only authorities, but they're also setting the way, the Acaryas, showing us that spiritual life, there's a price to pay. Some inconveniences we tolerate, but that, in the beginning, out of duty, sense of duty, yes, I made a vow. Later on, we realize, actually, there's meaning here, there's an importance here, why I have to follow the four regular principles, why I have to do this, it's not just some rules and regulations for the sake of following rules and regulations, but there's a reason behind them. We actually get benefit out of this. We're purifying ourselves, we attain love of Krishna. So when the devotees have to perform tapasya, we call austerities or inconveniences, tolerating. That's for the higher cause. For a higher cause, a very sublime cause. And Krishna appreciates. When you truly love someone, the first thing comes in sacrifice. You offer some sacrifice, whatever it is. So a devotee is prepared. Let me go out there and distribute 100 big books every day. And that's it. You take the whole world back to God. His life, the principles of moral and spiritual life. His life teaches that the real greatness lies in sacrifice. loyalty to Dharma, unwavering respect for the Supreme Lord, even amidst great suffering and complexity. So this is just about giving his importance, just like Advaita Acharya had a reason, a philosophical significance to appear. Same with Bhishma Dev and all the great personalities. They coming here not just for the pastimes, not just to be part of a battlefield, not just be a kshatriya and holding the sword. No, they are teaching us sacrifices. They weren't just timid and back off. And no, full on, showing the way. And this is the way to lead. And one day we all be leaders. Krishna wants us to be leaders. Leaders in the sense that by example. More and more people joining the movement, as you know. And we have to show them the way. We have to show them the way with our personal character, purity, and nice, beautiful qualities, Vaishnava qualities. Because if we really want to uplift this world with Krishna consciousness, we have to show them the example. Then, as they read the books and they see us, wow, this is so true. Because we are the mirrors of these purports. People looking at us. They read the books, and this is the mirror. Oh, beautiful Vaishnava qualities, humble, pure-hearted devotees, happy and joyful. That's the way to go. So, I think I conclude now here. Hare Krishna. Shri Advaita Acharya ki jai. Vishmadeva ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All the devotees ki jai. Hare Krishna. Yes, sir.